And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pedrozatravel show, where we are talking to you live from Riverside, California, on the West Coast. And we are doing a little bit of a different scene today. We are in the kitchen, and I see a broom in the background there. This is my postcard wall here on the back. This is our postcard wall of all the places that we've been to. And there's my son over there. I can see him in the back. He's helping clean up the mop. We have support in the background. And welcome, Jaden428. Thank you for coming. And I see my flock is everywhere is in the house. Thank you for coming, my flock. Appreciate it. We'll see how many people are here today. We do not have a guest today, but we got lots of things to talk about today. There are lots of interesting things. We had a great show yesterday. Thank you, everybody who came to the Saturday Stroll yesterday. It was a great show yesterday. Lots of new people, old people. I learned all sorts of new things about everyone as they were in the house and they were talking, and I learned all the answers on what would you rather. I really appreciate it. It was a great show. So today's show, since we did a show yesterday and a show today, it's going to be probably shorter show today, but I'm happy to see everybody in there. Oh, and I just saw coming into the show is two travelers in Mexico. Welcome to the show, two travelers in Mexico. Forgot to say, highlight there, welcome. My flock is everywhere. And I also see Jaden428 there. Welcome everybody to the show. It's low in numbers. Hello, two travelers in Mexico. Two travelers in Mexico are going to be my guest in 2 weeks on the show. So come in 2 weeks and we will have a sit-down chat with two travelers in Mexico coming from San Luis Potosi. So that's going to be interesting. But today I thought we'd talk a little bit about some travel news in the house. In a new segment I'm calling Yes, the new segment is travel news you can use. So I wanted to talk about some travel stories that were in the house and maybe get your opinion on some of these things. There's been some interesting travel news lately that I think is interesting and what's going on there. And for everybody out here in the house, if you'd like to show your channel out, please share and like everybody else's channel. Just type in hashtag drop link to share your channel out. Love to see all your channels. I'd like to network. That's been very helpful to me. So as we go through the news today, the first news story today that I saw today was cruise ship staff allowed Florida's man body to compose badly. Now, it's not uncommon, well, I should say, it's well known within the cruise industry that sometimes travelers on cruise ships die. And so, yes, put in hashtag drop link and that will share out your channel. And so, it's not unusual for somebody on a cruise ship to die. It's happened. A lot of cruisers tend to be older, and unfortunately, sometimes they get sick and they die on the ships. It is known. And this particular incident, which happened back in the beginning of April, it says, according to the lawsuit, and there's a lawsuit regarding this case, it says that Marilyn Jones, her husband, Robert Jones, was 79 years old and died aboard the Celebrity Equinox on, it was August 15th. And according to the story here, she was given an option when her husband died on the ship if she wanted to continue the cruise. The cruise was 6 days away from the United States, or they could drop her off in, I think it was Puerto Rico, and she could fly back from Puerto Rico. She did not opt to fly back from Puerto Rico, from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and she ended up waiting the 6 days. They said to her that they had a morgue and that they were going to put the body in the morgue. But the body decomposed so badly that they were unable to give him an open casket funeral, according to the lawsuit. And now they are seeking $1 million, which I think is pretty crazy. So I don't know. The $1 million lawsuit just seems kind of crazy. It wasn't the crew's fault that he had a heart attack on the ship. But now she's asking for $1 million. I don't know. Is that right? I don't think it's right. I personally believe if one of my loved ones died on the ship, the cruise is over at that point. There's no point on having a cruise if one of my family members is gone. It just doesn't make sense at that point. But this lady, no, she continued her cruise despite the fact that her husband had passed away. I would be in a lot of sorrow if my spouse had passed away on a cruise ship. So, yeah, I guess. But she is saying that she's going to sue them for $1 million because they did not specifically preserve the body while she was 6 days on her cruise. I just think that's a little bit crazy. Also in cruise news today is this story that I found interesting. A cruise ship for Florida migrant crisis had nowhere to go. So last year, there was a large influx of immigrants that were coming in, and they still do. They come in on different boats, and they came on different boats, and they were mostly wanting to land. They were coming from like Cuba and Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and they were wanting to land in Florida because the way that the law goes is if you land from, I don't want to say enemy, but a hostile country such as Cuba, and you land on American soil, you are automatically granted refugee status. But if you were caught in the ocean, then the U.S. Coast Guard will send you back to your country of origin. So a lot of immigrants were flooding to Florida, which if you're a Caribbean nation, that is the closest state to where you will live. And so what happened is all these immigrants were coming, and Florida did not know what to do. And so the governor out there, his name is Governor Ron DeSantis, in an emergency response to the migrant influx that was at the Florida Keys, he hired this cruise ship to house all these immigrants that were coming in. There was over 2,000 immigrants that were actually housed on a cruise ship for the last year. But the problem is he wanted to dock them because now the immigration problem has subsided a little bit and there's no longer so many people there. And so what has happened is the cruise ship, he didn't contract a place for the cruise ship to dock. So right now, off of the state of Florida, there is a ship sailing around with 2,000 immigrants that has nowhere to dock. And so the big question is, how long will it take until this cruise ship actually docks? I don't know. We'll see. Let's see what else is going on in the news today. In the news today was, also in the news is Norwegian Cruise Line cancels breakaway 2025 transatlantic crossing. So, according to a letter sent to the book guests for the sailing, which was scheduled to part on February 7th of this year, it is no longer going to go ahead. I don't know. For me, if you were going on a transatlantic cruise, that takes a long time to go out on a cruise. You have to plan way in ahead. I think that would be devastating for anybody who was on that cruise. But Norwegian Cruise Lines will give them back 100% credit. But I don't know, how would you feel about Norwegian Cruise Lines if you were preparing for a transatlantic 21-day journey and then a week before your cruise is set to sail, well, this is actually a year before, 2025, they say, sorry, we are canceling and we are giving your money back. I guess it's good that you're giving money back. I also think it's crazy, if you notice the year on that people are planning for 2025. We are in 2023 and people are planning for 2025. I just think that's crazy that people plan so far ahead. And I think it speaks a lot of volume to how well the cruise industry has been doing lately. As they've been going forward, there are so many people on cruises that these cruise ships are now often booked 6 to 1 year ahead. They are full. Well, I should say they are full during the peak seasons. If you go during the off seasons, not so much, but during the peak seasons, they are definitely full. So, according to Norwegian, they said the cancellation is a result of both location change for the ships and upcoming technical cause. And so they are saying, we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused, Norwegian Line stated in a statement sent to their guests. And I see in the house, hello, just doing our best. Thank you for coming in the show, just doing our best. Welcome to have you here on the Pedrozatravel show. If you'd like, please type out hashtag drop link in the comments section, and we will share out your channel today. We are talking different cruise channel news that I've seen in the news today. And so we're just talking about the news and how we would feel to the one right now. Yeah, type in drop link to share out the channel. We're talking travel news. Hopefully this is travel news that you can use with the Pedrozatravel show. And so, yeah, the effective guests will receive full monetary refund of the fare paid for them in their form of payment. So if you use the future cruise credit, you will now get a future cruise credit. If you use a credit card, it will go back to your credit card. No further action is required from the passengers, and the refunds will be automatically processed within 30 days, Norwegian says. So here is my next question out to anyone who's out there. Yeah, it's an interesting story about the immigrants. There are currently 2,000 immigrants on a cruise ship out of Florida state that was hired by Governor Ron DeSantis to handle the immigration crisis problem. The only problem is the state of Florida did not contract for that cruise ship to land at a dock. And now none of the docks are accepting 2,000 immigrants because I think it's going to be pretty hard to process 2,000 undocumented immigrants. And now the state of Florida has to pay every day that those immigrants are on that ship, and that can't be cheap. Hello, Fearless Rambler. I don't know if your ears were burning, but I was on the Sea Lake. No, what show was I on? I was on a show. Mike and Rihanna's show today, and they were talking about you and talking about the snow. I guess there has been a lot of snow out there in Utah. I don't know. Let me know. Has there been a lot of snow out in Utah? I haven't heard of a lot of snow out in Utah, but maybe. They were talking about your cabin out in Utah, and they were talking about a story about this guy who had to shovel through 30 feet of snow to get to his cabin. I don't know if that's true, but yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think sometimes that is our American tax dollars at work. It's currently going to cost the state of Florida a lot. They do have an emergency reserve fund for it, but I don't know how long that lasts. Okay, yeah, lots of snow, but it is melting. Yeah, it was 30 feet of snow, which is just crazy. I know at church, we have a church camp going on this summer near Bakersfield, California at the Kern River. And we're kind of worried. There's been a lot of snowpack in the mountains lately. Here in California, we don't usually get a lot of rain, but we got over 30 days of rain this year, and it's just been crazy. We were in a drought for the last 7 years, and then now we have so much rain that it's actually running off, and it's flooding parts of California right now. Okay, so saying won't get to the cabin until mid or late May. Okay. And yes, they are sending supplies to that cruise ship. They are actually doing it by helicopter and small supply ships. Right now, it's about 5 miles off the coast of Miami is where the ship is. And yeah, they took on those immigrants, so they have to supply those immigrants. I mean, you can't just like take on 2,000 immigrants and not feed them. That would be bad. So yeah, they're paying for supplies to that cruise ship, and that's my understanding. I see also in the news, let's see, Yeah, and those will have to be paid for as well. Yeah, they're going to have to be paid for as well. But yeah, I think there just was a plan executed. The plan maybe wasn't as well thought through. I think they were trying to avoid a bunch of immigrants coming into Florida, but I don't think it came through. So, the next news story that we have is there is a ship bigger than the city's biggest hotel. So, if I was to ask you what the biggest hotel in New York City was, you'd probably not say a cruise ship. But as of last Thursday, the MSC Meraglivia, I'm probably pronouncing that, it's spelled Merav. I should just put it in the chat here. The MSC Miraviglia is now the largest hotel in the state of New York with 2,224 rooms. This cruise ship is going to be docking outside of New York as an extra hotel, and they will be doing 1- and 2-day cruises out of New York City. So if you're in the New York City area and want to go on a cruise, there is the MSC Meraviglia sponsoring that. Yeah, there's a lot of supplies. Not only are the supplies being paid for, but also the helicopters and those ships bringing it. Yeah, you can't have one without the other. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, what do you do? So going back to the other story, 2,224 rooms. I mean, that's the thing about these cruise ships, is these cruise ships are just basically huge walking, floating hotels is what they are. What's funny is the largest land-based hotel in New York is the New York Marquise near Times Square, and it has 1,971 rooms. But now the Meraviglia will be the largest hotel room in New York. So here was another story that I thought was interesting, was flight attendant won't let plane leave until cleanup. So this is an interesting story that has been circulating out on social media. So the way the story goes is, I believe this was a Southwest jet, and the Southwest jet had just landed from its plane, from its airspace, and so the plane landed, and as the passengers were coming off of the plane, de-embarking the plane, one of the flight attendants noticed that there was one aisle with a lot of crumbs on the floor. So much so that she told the people in that aisle that they were not allowed to leave the plane until they agreed to clean up the crumbs from that aisleway. Turns out that the people that were in that aisleway was a family of 3. It was a mother, a father, and a 2-year-old daughter. And it was the 2-year-old daughter 5-year-old daughter, according to the story here. It was a 5-year-old daughter who had made a mess in the aisleway of this plane. And so the flight attendant told the lady to clean it up or they could not get off the plane. So that was an interesting story, that these people would be held up in a plane until they cleaned up after themselves. Now, according to the mother was forced on her hands and knees to clean up the aisleway from her daughter's crumbs. And so, but she is now complaining to the airline because she was pregnant at the time. So here's my question to you. If your kids make a mess on the plane, should you be required to clean up that mess? I personally think you should. I don't know where the dad was in all this story, but I don't know. Does it make a difference if the mother is also visibly pregnant? Although if I saw somebody pregnant in public, I wouldn't even mention it personally, so I don't know how you do that. I see some hellos going out there. Hello, just doing our best. Hello to travelers in Mexico. So if you got an opinion on it, how would you have handled that situation? If you were the flight attendant, would you have ordered the family to clean up after their child? I also wonder why the 5-year-old wasn't cleaning up the crumbs either. So I think, yeah, if I personally would clean it up. That's probably where I would be too. I would clean the mess up. If I was the parent of the child, I feel that I am responsible for the child. There was also another story recently of there was a child crying. It was a 3-hour flight, and the child was crying, and then another man who was unassociated, which was a few rows back, he actually threw a fit himself, and they ended up having to do security for that guy. So it's a sad situation these days on planes. Um, but yeah, I think it all comes down to having a little bit of compassion. But also, as a parent, you need to take care of your children. Hello, Golden Girl. Welcome to the Pedroza Travel Show. Happy to have you here on the show. We're talking travel news and different stories that I have seen. It's going to probably be a shorter show today, but we're happy to have everyone in. And please say hello to everybody and thank you for stopping by. It's great to have you here and great for everybody to say hello to each other. So yeah, going back to the story, I think I would clean up. Well, as a father, I would clean up after my child. Um, yes, it was a 3-hour flight, and according to the man, the guy, he threw a fit because the child was crying the entire flight, coming on and the entire plane. He was so loud that flight attendants actually called the police, and he was greeted at the airport by police for yelling. According to the flight attendant said that he was louder than the child themselves. So yeah, so it's interesting. Personally, when I fly on a plane, I just bring noise canceling headphones, and the kid can yell all the kid wants because I won't hear them. I'll be on a noise canceling. And then if the flight attendant needs me, I guess they just need to tap me on the shoulder. The only problem with wearing noise canceling headset is if there is an important announcement by the flight crew, I will not hear that either. So, but that's never been an issue because I just go on planes and sleep is what I do. That's pretty much my operating standard. I see some more hellos. And you know what? Traveling is my passion too. And you know, Golden Girl, sometimes traveling, the getting there can be rough, but that's all to me is part of the experience of traveling. I think we just have to be compassionate with other people because if we're compassionate with other people, then they're going to be compassionate with us. Because I know, for example, a big thing for me is I'm just a big guy. I weigh over 300 pounds. I am a big guy. So the worst seat that I can get is a middle aisle seat. If I get a middle aisle seat, I am probably going to be bumping elbows with well, not even probably. I'm going to be bumping elbows with my neighbors. And that can be an issue. I always try to get my favorite seat is the window seat. Yeah. You should. The important announcement comes when the oxygen. Yeah. If the oxygen mask drop, I'm listening to the pilot. To travelers in Mexico, yeah, for sure. If I see the oxygen mask drop, my earphones will be off. And a big mega meow meow to Lifestyle. We're in. Nice to have you in the show. We are talking travel news stories. And right now we're talking about planes. We're talking about what is your favorite. I'm curious. So what is your favorite seat on an airplane? Do you prefer the window, the middle, or the aisle seat? Comment below. I'm interested to hear what you have to say on that. My personal preference is a window seat. I don't like getting up to let people go off to the bathroom. I figure if it's an under 6-hour flight, I will always pick the window. I make sure that I go to the restroom before I get on the plane. Those plane restrooms are very small anyway, so you got that going against you. And then you have to get up and let people climb over you, and it's just awkward sometimes. And then let's see what it says here. LOL. Yeah, you want to make sure that you please put your mask on and put your head towards your knees over the intercom. Yeah. Yeah, if the masks come down, I will be paying all the attention that I can. I see some more hellos. Okay, we got one answer here. Golden Girl says the aisleway. I'm assuming you're saying the aisleway because that gives you more leg room. The only problem with the aisle for me is when I take the aisle, like I like the aisle because you can stretch out your legs a little bit in the aisle and you don't have to ask anybody to use the restroom if you need to use the restroom. But the problem is if you're tall, well, I'm 6 foot, which isn't like that tall, but it's okay tall. It's tall enough for an airplane, and the dilemma I always have is if I put my feet out, it seems like always somebody's walking in the aisleway, especially like the trays. My knees will get hit by the trays all the time in the aisleway. And if you are in the aisleway, you have to be courteous and let people go. See, I like to sleep on the plane, so yeah, that's the thing. Like, it is easier to go to the restroom if you're on the aisle, but I like to go to sleep on planes. That's what I do. I do a lot of red eye flights, and so by doing a lot of red eye flights, I will just sleep on the plane. But if you're sleeping and you're in the aisle and somebody needs to go to the restroom, well, then yeah, you're gonna have an issue there. Just doing our best says, I like the one right behind the restroom, more legroom, but then I only fly when I go back to Guam, 36 flight without. Now, see, that's the difference. Like, if I'm going on a flight that's over 6 hours long, then I will pick the aisle because on the aisle, you want to go to the restroom. I have had mixed reviews about getting the seat one behind the restroom. On the one hand, I like the last row on a plane because people will recline their chairs, and I don't know why do airplanes even allow reclining when they squish you so together. Like, you go on a plane and then the person in front of you reclines and it's like you're over here, hello, you can see them because they're in your lap. That's the thing. Yeah, but if it's over 6 hours, I will definitely pick the aisle. And the other thing about the last row in an airplane is sometimes you can smell the restroom, and the restroom doesn't always smell that pleasant. And so, yeah, that can be an issue too, is smelling the restroom can be bad, so you don't know. Fearless Rambler says, I need to get up and walk around. And I think that is important. If you are going on a plane and it is more than 6 hours long, you should get up and walk around, or you could get a condition they call it, I think it's called thrombosis, is when you get thrombosis in the leg, and you can get blood clots if you do, because remember, you're up at 30,000 feet is a normal cruising altitude for a plane, and so yeah, you're gonna get thrombosis in your veins, and you could get a blood clot. So make sure if you are going on a long haul flight, make sure you get up and walk around, get your blood circulating a little bit. That is very important on a plane to do. And just doing our best says, LOL, so true. Yeah, or people lining up for the restroom. Well, I guess you could call that extra entertainment, just doing our best. You get to watch everybody doing the potty dances that you get to see. Yeah, but it's a lot of open and closed doors, especially if it's at night, because at night, they turn off the lights in the main cabin there so everybody can sleep. But the bathroom light is always on, so every time they open up that door, the light's on and off. And yes, make sure that you walk around, because yeah, you can hurt. Thanks. You're funny. The pee-pee dance is what we call it. Yeah, I call it the potty dance. You can call it pee-pee dance. I guess it must be a geographical thing. Depends. One side can call it the pee-pee dance and the other can call it the potty dance. But that's what you get here on this show. You just get strange situations, I guess. Yeah, but it's interesting to see people go to the restroom. Luckily, I have not had a bathroom emergency on a plane, I really just try to avoid the airport, well, the airplane bathroom at all. I mean, it's hard enough um, catching a flight these days, but I really make sure that I go use the restroom before because, yeah, those plane restrooms, I don't know, they're just. Ever since I think even when I was a kid, I didn't like an airplane restroom because when you flush the toilet in an airplane restroom, it has that suction noise, and I remember as a kid being frightened to death of that vacuum sound at the end. I was like, "Wah!" I'd come out running out of the restroom when I was a little kid. But even though I'm an adult and I understand that I'm not going to get sucked out of the airplane, it's still a little bit weird, very cramped. I just avoid them if I can. So, um, yeah, it's just like if you're a little kid, like I've been flying on planes since I was 1 years old, and they were just bad. They were just scary. Fearless Rambler says, "For me, an aisle seat is the only way. Only way." Now, I'm curious out there of those that are here. I don't. I consider most of you out there right now budget travelers, but are any of you just one of those travelers that have to go business or first class? I hardly ever go business or first class. I've gone business class a few times, and one time I got upgraded to first class, and that was nice, but I really don't understand the difference between first and economy class, so I just usually go economy class. And just doing our best says not me, so I'm assuming that you are like me and are just an economy class person, which is fine. You can be an economy class person. You don't have to um, make things expensive. I am personally all about traveling as much as I can for as long as I can, and that just means that you're gonna travel budget is what it means. So let's see what other stories I have in the news today. Let's scroll down. Oh, this is an interesting story. Cancun tops American travel demand. So travel is way up right now. Now that the pandemic is gone, travel is high and it is packed. And apparently, Cancun is where all the Americans are going. Cancun has topped the list of American travel demand. Now, I personally like Cancun, Mexico. Cancun, Mexico is located in the state of Quintana Roo in the south of Mexico. But to me, Cancun is just a little bit too expensive for my taste these days. But yeah, I just found it very interesting that Cancun is the number one travel destination for Americas. It's not the United States. There's nowhere in the United States that beats Cancun for the amount of Americans going. So more Americans these days are traveling to Mexico than traveling to the United States, which that's an interesting dilemma that's going on. Fearless Rambler says, many times, I'm guessing that you wanted to say, many times I will do business. Okay, so Fearless Rambler likes to do business. We are headed to Miami in a week, but we are doing business. Worth the points. Then that's the thing. Like, sometimes you can do points. I just recently got a Capital One Venture X card, and I do sometimes get bonuses from the points that are on the card. I've been playing around with my Capital One Venture X card, which is really nice because the Capital One Venture X card, I can put that later on in the description if you're interested in a referral. You do have to pay for that credit card, but it comes with like 10x points. But the Capital One points are transferable on like almost every other travel website available. And so, yeah, it's very nice. And it comes with the Priority Lounge access. And then once every 4 years, they will pay for my global entry pass. So that's nice. So, yeah, if you can do points, that helps. Just doing our best says, I hardly travel. Okay, well, travel when you can. Fearless Rambler says, we love the Riviera Maya, Mexico. So is there a specific place, when you say Riviera Maya, Mexico, that's kind of a big area. Like, when I think of the Riviera, that's all the way from, like, I don't know, like, down to Playa del Carmen, all the way up to Cancun itself. There's so many places. Is there anyone? I'm just curious. Is there a particular spot on the Riviera Mexico that you like? Let me know. I'm curious. It's so interesting to me that these days more people are going to Mexico than the United States for travel for their summer travel plans. Puerto Morelos is a great place to visit. Yes, I have been there in Puerto Morelos. Nice place to visit. So yeah, it's just mind-boggling to me that more Americans would rather go to Mexico for their summer vacation. And this is despite all the crazy stories of violence that we hear about Mexico. Even though we hear all about the violence there, I think I missed a comment up here. Where did it say? I think I missed a comment. If I missed your comment, sorry. Sometimes. Oh, I think this is Mark saying, I get the aisle seat or an emergency exit. I am 6'5". Yeah, see, if you're tall, a plane is a hard thing. That was the one that I missed there. Yeah. Puerto Aventuras. I don't know. Where is Puerto Aventuras? That's a port that I've not heard. I've heard of Puerto Morelos before, but not Puerto Aventuras. Where is that in Mexico, Puerto Aventuras? I'm gonna have to look that up. And it says my travel credit card is a Chase Sapphire and Alaskan Airlines BOA. Yeah, the American Airlines credit card is really nice because you can collect it up to get a companion fare. And if you get enough points to get the companion fare, you get it for a whole year, and then you plus a friend of yours can travel for free. So that's like every time you get a flight, you get one off. So yeah, the American Airlines credit card is a great credit card, and I believe that one's a free credit card to get. So that's a good one. I see some more highs. Hello, Golden Girl. Hey, it's Keisha H. Hello there, Keisha H. Welcome to the show. We're just talking about travel news stories that I've seen today. Specifically, we've been talking a lot about planes and which plane seat is your favorite plane seat, and is it the aisle, the window, or the middle? I've never heard of anybody saying the middle seat is their favorite seat. I don't know. I think I would look a little bit strange if somebody said, oh yeah, my favorite seat is the middle seat. Who likes the middle seat? By Tulum. Okay. I've been to Tulum. You know, Tulum is kind of a sad story for me, Fearless Rambler, because I used to love Tulum. Tulum used to be such a natural beauty, but I think that's one of the ports that the Instagrammers have got, and now Tulum is very expensive. And the funny thing about it is there's not a lot of infrastructure. You see, when a place gets popular in Mexico, they tend not to build infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I'm talking about like roads, sewer, water, and that's what happened in Tulum. And so the last time I went to Tulum, it was expensive, but then the streets were not very well kept. Like the resorts are beautiful. They're gorgeous in Tulum. The beaches are gorgeous, except when this sargassum, what do they call it? The sargassum. It's like the algae. There's this algae that comes every year to the Riviera Maya, and it's kind of gross. But yeah, Tulum used to be a beautiful place, and I just don't think it's as beautiful as it used to be because too many people. I mean, it just got loved to death. Don't get me wrong, though. The pyramids at Tulum, the Mayan pyramids at Tulum, are still one of my favorite pyramids. I see some hellos and lots of hellos. Thank you, everybody, for coming in today. I hope you do get to travel again. That's what this channel is all about, is inspiring people to travel. Yeah, I heard that there's a lot of seaweed. In fact, the seaweed I heard got all the way to Florida this year, and even Florida had to deal with the seaweed there. So yeah, it's pretty crazy how much the seaweed has gotten out there, and it's just crazy. I wonder if that's because there's a lot of fertilizer being used out in the fields, and maybe that fertilizer is getting into the groundwater, which is going into the sea. I don't know what the cause of all the seaweed is these days, but it is an interesting story. So my last story for the day just happened yesterday. just yesterday here in Anaheim, California, Disney Dragon goes up into flames. So, if I stop buying silver coins, I might be able to travel more. Well, if you continue to buy silver coins and the price of silver goes up, you might be able to travel more than me because the price of silver has been going up quite a bit just doing our best. It's amazing how much the price of silver goes up. I remember when I could buy a Morgan silver dollar for like $18. That was the going rate for a Morgan silver dollar. And I think the Morgan silver dollar, correct me if I'm wrong, depending on it, well, everything's depending on its value, but a regular silver dollar, just the silver dollar itself is like $35. Yeah, it's crazy how much the price of silver has gone up these days. And I just think that shows a lot what's going on with our currency in general, which I believe is being devalued. And then Fearless Rambler says Puerto Aventuras is between Tulum and Playa del Carmen. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I know Tulum and I know Playa del Carmen very well. I've stayed in both of those areas, but I've never been to Puerto Aventuras. So, is it like a city or is it like a resort? Yeah, I'll have to look that up later after the show. I'm not familiar with Puerto Aventuras, so that is very interesting. Very interesting indeed. So going back to the story that I was talking about, at Disneyland, there here in Anaheim, California, there is a show called Fantasmic. I don't know how many here in the house have ever gone and seen the show at Anaheim Disneyland. Fantasmic is a great show, but during that show, there's a scene. It's a great show, except it's kind of a wild show. It's a show with Mickey Mouse, and it shows his imagination, which Mickey Mouse apparently has a wild imagination because it includes a dragon. And in this show, Mickey Mouse defeats the dragon, and there's lots of flame effects. But last night, the flame effects did not go well because, as you can see from this picture, the dragon actually really caught on flames. That is a picture of what actually happened at Disneyland last night. So, the Fantasmic show will not be showing for the next 3 days while they try to replace the dragon. The dragon is a scene from, its official name is Maleficent. It's the Maleficent dragon. It's this scene where this evil queen turns into a dragon, and then Mickey Mouse comes and defeats the dragon, and there's a flame effect. But in this case, the flames actually got to the dragon itself, and the dragon was officially vanquished in real life as it was happening. But don't be worried. No one was hurt except for the dragon. The dragon is going to need to be replaced, but no one in the cast and none of the guests were hurt during this. What happened is immediately when this happened, all the guests were ushered out of, well, it's not really a stadium. So the way the show works is it's done on what's called Rivers of America. There's like a little river area in New Orleans Square where the people stand and watch the show. And so the people are quite distanced away from the actual show itself, which is on Tom Sawyer Island. And as soon as the dragon caught on fire, the guests were all escorted out. No guests were harmed. And more importantly, none of the performers were harmed. They are trying to clean up the area today. They're thinking 2 or 3 days. The mechanical dragon is gone. It was completely destroyed from the fire, but they are saying that they have other alternatives, including a projection version of the dragon. So for the next few shows, it'll probably be a projection dragon until they can get a new mechanical one in place. More comments on Keisha A says, I like the window seat when flying, but I'd rather take the middle before the aisle seat though. Weird, but you just don't like. Now, I get that, Keisha H. I don't like the outer seats, but the middle one, wow, you are the first person that I've ever seen say that they like the middle seat on an airplane. Yeah, it was a little bit too real Fearless, yeah, fun fire. Yeah, it was I think it was a little bit more than the guests anticipated last night at Disneyland. But yeah, it really caught on fire. So it was kind of crazy at Disneyland. That was and of course here in California, especially Southern California, if something happens at Disneyland, we all know right away. I haven't been to Disneyland in I think over 6 years now, but even I heard about it. I used to go to Disneyland all the time. I used to have a annual pass for Disneyland, and I would go every single Saturday to Disneyland. And I knew almost all the cast and all the crew there, but it got too expensive. Fearless Rammer says, I will take the middle seat for a short 1 hour for cost only. I don't know. It better be way cheap before I take the middle. And this is the thing, like in Mexico, well, I don't know if it's in Southwest, you just like, if you get in line first, then you can just pick your seat. There's no assigned seating. But, okay, that's fine. I need a projection, Keisha, to go back to work for me on Tuesday after my 4 month sabbatical. Oh, wow. I wish I had a 4 month sabbatical. Sorry you have to go to work. The bill collectors still come, Keisha. That's just the way it goes. I have never been to Disneyland. I have visited Universal Studios. Now, see, Universal Studios, which one? Did you visit the one in Florida or did you visit the one in California? Now, the Universal Studios is an interesting thing because Universal Studios, I think, is gaining ground right now, especially with the new Mario movie that just came out. Universal Studios is gaining ground on Disney, and it'll be interesting to see how Disney responds. The last 3 Disney movies have not done very well, but Mario Brothers, which is the last Universal Studios movie, did phenomenal. It is breaking records. I did a little video on when we went to go see the Mario movie. I'm not a big Mario fan, but there are a lot of Mario Brother fans out there. And it was back in. Oh, you went to the Florida one. See, the Florida one is bigger than California, but what I like about Universal Studios in California is that Universal Studios in California is an actual working studio. And so we have the tram tour here in California where you can actually see movies being made on an actual working movie studio. Now, at Disney World in Florida, they used to have like a tram tour where you could see how the movies were made at Disney World, but they no longer do that. So, yeah. Interesting. Frontier Airlines to Denver can be as low as $18 for a middle seat. From where? $18 airfare here in the United States? From where? From Utah? So like from Utah to Denver, you're getting an $18 seat? That's really good. I gotta look at that. You know what I do like about Frontier Airlines is that on Frontier Airlines, the seats do not recline. They're a little bit harder, but they don't recline. And that sounds bad, but I never recline my chair. I don't recline my chair. I know it's a right of people to recline their chair, but I don't recline my chair because I don't want to see people in my lap. And then it always gets weird when people try to recline to me, so I try not to do them. Hello, Michelin Doll. Check it in from Australia. Welcome from the other side of the world, Michelin Doll. Thank you for coming in and saying hello. We're grateful to have you here. Thank you for coming in, Fearless Traveler. It was nice to have you. I hope you have a great dinner. That's what I'm going to be doing today after the show is having dinner myself. I think I'm going to make some Mexican shrimp cocktail after this conversation. After talking so much about Mexican Riviera, I think it's time for some Mexican shrimp cocktail. I got all the ingredients. I got my California avocados here. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make some Mexican shrimp cocktail after this. Hey, how's it going, Christy? Good to see you in the house. Freelancing tips for beginners by Christy Allen. By the way, I sent you an email as well. So in 2 weeks, we are going to have some more guests on the show. So in 2 weeks, we are going to have 2 travelers in Mexico in the house. So be sure to stay tuned in 2 weeks for that show. We do our shows here every Sunday afternoon, which is 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know. What time is it over there, Christy? I'm curious. What time is it right now in the Philippines? If you can let me know in the comments, I'm very curious. I'm very curious, like, what time is it in Australia and what time is it in the Philippines? Because I have to think it's like really early. Is it like Monday morning for you right now, Christy? And yeah, that is incredibly cheap. I don't even care if they're going like 2 miles for an $18. Um, hello, welcome to the chat. And yeah, they have actual movie sets in Universal Studios, and you can go on the tour. I have seen lots of actors doing movies at Universal Studios in California. Thank you for sharing out the show. I am personally more of a fan of Universal Studios in California. It's smaller, but it's a real working studio. Lots of hellos going on. Hello, hello. Thank you. Just doing our best. Oh, okay. When are your shows going to be? I missed your shows before. I'm back online with YouTube. And yes, I did send you an email, Christy. Hopefully you got it. I'd love to have you on the show. If I don't know what how the times work out for you, but if you have time for the show, I'd like to have you as a guest on the show. I sent you an email earlier, and if anybody out there would like to be a guest on the show, please let me know. We're here every Sunday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'd love to have you on a guest on the show. That's why I created this live stream show. I'm mostly a long video user, but okay, yes. Do not let your husband go hungry. I would not want to be responsible for that. Don't worry, two travelers in Mexico. We have plenty of questions about your life. Now, if you do not know the two travelers in Mexico, you should go over there. Okay, so it's 7:51 in the Philippines over there. Yeah, that was my question. I emailed you because I wanted to have you as a guest on the show, but I didn't know what the time was. So my guess is it's 7:51 a.m. on a Monday. So I didn't know if that was going to be like too early because I know there's a lot of time difference between here and the Philippines. But I have some questions that I'd like to ask you on the show. And then again, on May 7th, we will have the two travelers here in Mexico. So you will not want to miss that. If you'd like to be on the show, yeah, I don't want to be known as the homewrecker either. Yeah, I don't want to be known as the homewrecker either. Yeah, if you got to go to feed your family, go feed the family. I appreciate everyone coming up on the show. Yeah, please do check it out. Hopefully you got the email. If you don't, let me know. I don't even know. Hopefully I had your right email address. I like Universal Studios in California. And if you haven't thumbs up, give a thumbs up for this show. Thank you for coming in the show today. It's Monday, 9/23. That's what I thought. Thank you so much for coming in the show. Like you out in Australia and out in the Philippines. You know, there's also a Universal Studios in Japan. So, but you never know. You should get your, maybe you can get your visa and you can come out and visit Universal Studios out here. We can show you, maybe we could do a collab if you come out here. You can do a collaboration and we can show you all about Universal Studios in Hollywood and you can see the movie magic, which sometimes is just fake magic, but that's how it works here in California. Yeah, it's a 14-hour time difference. That's a lot. So thank you so much for coming in the show, Michelin Doll. Appreciate your support. Hello, Mitchie Boo. Nice to see you in the show. It's good to have you here in the show on the Pedrozatravel show. And we're just talking travel show. We've been talking about Disneyland and how Disneyland had a fire last night on their Fantasmic stage at Disneyland, California. But thank you so much for coming into the show and talking with us and hanging out with us a few minutes. Thank you everyone who's come in the show. Okay, thank you so much. I'll check out your playlist as well. If you got a particular, please go over and share, everybody. Share and go and visit everybody else's channel. And I really believe in networking and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already to this channel, we are at 939 subscribers, if you can believe it. We're so close to the 1,000 mark right now. It is crazy. Thank you, everybody who has participated. Well, that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for coming. And please come back next Sunday as we talk about more travel related news. And I will be checking out your channels as well. Thank you so much for coming in, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye for now.